welcome to Transcend, the Christian thinking talk show, where we are unlocking truth and we are transcending lives. I am your host, Minister Lennox Brown Jr., and in today's discussion, we will be discussing what's allowed in Christian courtship. With me today is my very special guest, my friend and my brother, a man of the gospel, Minister Dr. Lincoln Bryan. Lincoln, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Today, we are happy to have you because we believe that you're going to do justice in our discussion on what's allowed in Christian courtship. This is a very interesting topic because our young people, they want to know the do's and don'ts while they are courting. So we're happy to have you, and we hope that at the end of this show, our young people, they will be pointed in the right direction. All right, so we're going to start. What's the difference between secular dating and Christian dating? What are your views?
Christian dating and secular dating. Another thing is, when we look at both Christian and secular dating, what makes the difference is the intention. So it's the intent behind it that makes the difference, because when we look from a more secular perspective, persons who are dating secularly, most time they just like the girl and just pretty much want to hang out, have a good time and pretty much have some sex. That is more of a secular dating. But when we look from more a Christian point of view, it's much more different, because the Christian dating now, the intention of Christian dating should be and always remained wanting to get married, and of course the long term and not much of a short term plan. So when we look at the Christian versus secular, it's the intention behind both that makes it different. And of course there are restrictions, there are limitations, there are boundaries that govern the Christian dateship that in most cases not so much with secular. Of course, each woman, whether Christian saved or unsaved, do have their own personal boundary. But in the Christian dating, of course, we are guided by biblical truth. And so that makes it a whole lot different.
So is it safe then to say that there's a boundary by which Christian dating they're held by versus secular dating? Is there certain guidelines, certain principles that ought to be followed whilst doing courtship in the Christian context?
Well, absolutely. You know, when you look at more secular, when you look at more Christian one rather, there are boundaries that is set up, and some of these boundaries, of course, must be first established by the persons in whom are in the relationship. Of course, the man and the woman who are in the relationship must set a certain some boundaries as to what we will do, what we will not do, and some of these boundaries, of course, must always be guided by the word. And so when we look at these days, just to make sure that we keep things in perspective and to keep us safe, because I trust me, but what I don't trust is the devil in me. Yeah. So I want to make sure that, you know, we're held accountable, and so we set this up, we have the conversation, and she and I will say what we will not do, what we'll do, and after in time too, we can bring persons in who we trust to hold us accountable, even if that means sometime in the early stage of dating we have somebody who come along with us, if we're maybe our best friend or somebody who we're comfortable, just so that we make sure that as we're building and getting to know each other and we're setting up our boundaries, we understand each other and we keep things safe. You know, we want to make sure that our good is also not evilly spoken of. And of course, there are biblical contexts that surround it too.
But if Christian dating, Lincoln, is different than that of the world, is it okay for those of our young people that are out there and they are wondering if it's okay for them to partake in online dating or blind dates? If Christian dating is different than that of the secular context, is online dating and is what you would call a blind date, is it okay for Christians to partake in this?
I wouldn't put really a no on it to say no, you're not supposed to partake in it. It boils down to the person, because they are Christians, or also their dating website Christian Mingle, and we know oftentimes there are persons who say, you know, I'm a Christian on it, and it's not Christian in our sense, but that they are a believer. And it goes down to the person himself, because there are persons who are in the church who are saved Christian, who have found husbands and have found wives on these dating websites who are particularly looking for a particular kind of person. And of course, in getting to know them, you find that this is somebody on whom I am interested with, or faith aligns, or belief align. And that is one of the things that is most important, is that we are equally yoked. And so once you get to know that person and start having the conversation, it is a decision that you will have to make and one have to make. I wouldn't say no, don't. There are guidelines and there are safety, but again.
But shouldn't be the church be the final grounds for which I meet my wife, or a sister meet her husband? Shouldn't the church be the facilitator of these things rather than online dating, rather than Christian mingle?
Well, the thing is, we're not in particular saying, go online, but we're saying, what if this is the route? You have been in church and you don't see anybody that you like. And they said, all right, let me try to do something different, and let me try to move outside of the orthodox way of meeting somebody in the church, because we don't only meet people in church. We have met persons on jobs, we have met persons through connection. A friend introduced me to a friend who she think, I may like somebody, introduced me to my wife, who I think, you may like this girl, and turns out to be my wife. So it's two different avenues, and not necessarily means that I am going to meet her at church or at a church event, but it can mean that I meet her, of course, different place. But what is most important is that our values, our belief system aligns. Outside of that, we will become unequally yoked, and a lot of different, because unequally yoked don't only mean that I am Pentecostal or I am apostolic, and she has to be, because there are persons who are both Pentecostal and both apostolic, but we are different in our faith, or we are different what we believe in. Some stuff you may say, I don't believe that, and that's fine, while for the other person, I definitely believe it, and it's a deal breaker for me. Both persons are then unequally yoked.
But question though, what can we identify as explicit biblical principles for courtship and dating that we can point our young people to within a Christian context and within the Bible?
And within the Bible, and that's a good question. And I have some point that I dropped down here, because there is no biblical evidence surrounding courtship or dating, because dating and courtship didn't happen until the 21st century. Because in the 20th century, and in the time where we are speaking from a biblical perspective, when men and women were dating each other or seeing each other into marriage, there wasn't a thing known as dating or courtship. But as we know, a father will give this man to his daughter for whatever work he have done, or he like his daughter and the son, and it's more arranged marriage, and there wasn't anything surrounding dateship. And so the Bible haven't spoken, and when you check the context, the only thing we see about two persons really in love in that sense is Ruth and Boaz. But there is nothing from a biblical perspective, and I always say where the Bible is silent, I am. But then there are guidelines, of course, in this 21st century surround dating, because of course I believe in dating wholeheartedly and courtship, because I believe that you must get an opportunity to know the person that you're going. In this time, you want to know the person who you're going to date or who you're going to marry to for the long term. And time is important, and so this process is important. However, there are guidelines in the process. So, for example, some of the things that we may set up in dating to say, all right, we are seeing each other, but we know we're not going to have sex, and that's one of the blanket things. There's no sex allowed until the day when we get married. This late night thing, we're not going out there. We don't want to be seen at night by ourselves, or we're not putting ourselves in a compromising position. If we hug, as they call it in the old church, we're leaving room for the Holy Ghost, which means, we're not going to squeeze too tight. So these are all the little guidelines, and these are discussion, which I guess both parties must sit and have. And of course, you can bring your pastor in, you can bring a trusted ally in. And I always believe once things are getting serious, in terms of we're dating and we're moving into that courtship stage where we believe, okay, this is it. I always believe we need to start bring our leaders in, bring your parents who are Christian in, bring a trusted leader in, just to guide you and to help you through that process.
But the issue that I think a lot of young people they are facing now, they are wondering if these guidelines, if it's still relevant today within our Christian context today in keeping that boyfriend or keeping that girlfriend interested in the relationship and in them? Are those practices still relevant today?
Absolutely. Those practices are still relevant in today, because if we don't have those guidelines, then we're going to now find that you're going to fall into sexual immorality. You're going to start doing things outside of the principles of who you are and outside of the principles of your faith, your doctrine, your belief. And so those are still relevant. Why guidelines are instructed, and just like a billing offense, the purpose of offense is to keep some things in and to keep some things out. And so if there's no guideline, then we just date without any restriction, without anything. We're touching up and we're doing this and we're in at beach and I'm already seeing you. There's nothing.
But one would argue, what's the issue with kissing and in touching? Because the Bible did not say specifically or explicitly that we shouldn't kiss. As a matter of fact, the Bible said in 1 Corinthians 5 verse 26 and in 2 Corinthians 13 verse 12, greet your brother with a holy kiss.
Right.
What is wrong with giving your boyfriend or your girlfriend a holy kiss?
Yeah, but let's specify what is a holy kiss. You know? And that is the first point. And I don't think the boyfriend or girlfriend really want a holy kiss, because a holy kiss can be a little peck or a little one on the cheek. You understand? So it depends. So what we call a holy kiss, now in the context, because remember, no, we're having feelings and everything going on for each other. So beyond, a little peck on, we want to know there's more to this little holy kiss. We want a little kiss which is different. Again, that is why we said there are guidelines, because when it comes to kissing and touching, we always believe touching, but touching where? Am I holding your hands, touching? Am I putting my arms around your shoulder, touching? Am I putting my arms around your waist? It depends. Am I walking with my hands on your bottom? Touching. So what the level of touch? Because from that touching, because we have to understand the sensuality behind touching, and the emotions and feelings that start to arise from touching, and all kind of different stuff start to happen when we start with that. Kissing is the next one. What kind of kissing? Are we talking about good wet kissing in one corner, lean up, or what kind of kissing we're talking about? So and a kissing lead somewhere else if we're talking about a little peck or a thing and so forth. And the reality of it,
but that's a talking point for a lot of preachers and teachers over the years, that kissing and petting can lead to something else. But what if you are engaging in these acts? You're in a committed relationship where you and the person, you guys are planning on getting married, and you guys are participating in kissing, but not going all the way. What if it's not leading to anything else? Why can't I kiss? Why can't I touch?
How do you know that it's not leading to anywhere else?
But what if I can control my mind?
But
because that's the question that a lot of young people they have. I'm controlling myself, I'm controlling my mind. But a little talk there that encouragement sweeten labor. So sometimes you give him a little one chops, or you give him a little one kiss just to encourage him while he's waiting for your hand in marriage.
Right.
And it's not leading anywhere else. So why can't young people engage in kissing?
So one other thing it's not a hard and fast rule. As I said, it depends on both individuals. It's two persons who want to discuss as to what we will allow, what will not allow. And again, the guidelines are set up, of course, by leaders and our fathers of all.
But Lincoln, why is it that we have to accept that we can't kiss and we can't touch, we can't do any of these things? What if I can do it and keep my mind holy or pure while I'm doing it? Because after all, the Bible did say that, it's within our minds that we sin. And the Bible also lay out an explicit guideline for dating, which is don't commit fornication. But what if I can keep my mind from a lustful place whilst I'm kissing? What's the big deal? What's the issue? What's the big deal?
You're a very strong man, because it would be difficult for me to keep my mind from lusting, while I'm kissing, because again, I tell you, I trust me, but I don't trust the devil in me, because there's a war going on in my members. You understand?
Okay.
And I am privy to that war, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to set up myself to that state. And so what I'd say is that they are picking. There's a little chokes, there's a little kiss that going, and that's the reality of it. That will happen, because especially, you're getting serious, and this is a person you love, engagement happen. I'm sure maybe even not publicly, you would give her a little peck or give her a little kiss. And I know that, and that's a reality, so it don't make sense we dance around that. However, what we're saying, is just to keep your hands at a certain place and don't go too much to it. And because when we start to go into the deep wet kisses and all of that, a lot start to happen, because the reality of it, it's two persons who are in love with each other. Right? And they're moving into marriage.
Yeah.
And so they love each other. So all those emotions and everything are in place. And it is very, very easy. Very easy for persons to fall into that. And this is a known fact. I've known persons. I've been friends with people who are both engaged and they're both planning on getting married. They're in courtship and actually fall into having sex before the marriage happened. And I've known persons who even have gone to the person where the girl actually got pregnant even before the marriage happened. Do they still get married? Yeah. And that's a marriage that I would recommend, because it's both persons who are planning to get married. And this happened.
But that's interesting though, because we did we threw out some questions and we threw out the topic to many young people. Mm-hmm. And one of the feedback that we got was that in the olden days, if we were going to really align our actions to biblical principles, in the olden days, you used to take a woman and call her your wife. Mm-hmm. So if I am committed to that person in my mind and I'm calling her my wife, and this is a covenant that I enter into, why do I need a specific day, a wedding day, just to do the formalities or just to do the secular celebration? Why do I need that day to give me legal right to enjoy her body?
Mm-hmm. But then we want, and as we talk about the 20th and 21st century dating, and when we look at biblical time and now, and even when we use a concept, take a woman and call her your wife, and it's not as face value as that is it, that I just say she's my wife. There's always a public notice, and so that folks know that I am committed to her, I am with her. And that is why we know the story of Joseph and Mary, that they were engaged to be married. And so that's why Joseph wanted to put her away secretly. Why? Because everybody knew that we were getting married, and then she pregnant before we married. What is this? It's a public spectacle. So even in that biblical sense, we realize that something must happen before. There were ceremonies that happened. Jesus at the wedding, turn water into wine. So we recognize there was a coming together and a celebration and a gathering. And a marriage is a commitment between a man and woman, and God, a threefold cord, cannot be broken. And it's a lateral and horizontal. Ooh. Yeah. And so it takes more than see her and call her a wife. It's making a vow. It's making a dedication to this woman, because you don't have to be a big celebration with 500 people, but two persons coming together, standing between a man of God, repeating those vows and committing to each other. And there's a legal aspect to it too. Yep. Because the Bible says obey the law of the land. And the legal aspect of it is both persons sign legal document to say we are joined together as husband and wife. So
it's not sufficient, or it's not enough just for me to say that's my wife and go and engage in intercourse with her.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There must be some form of commitment and something that is also expressed outwardly, and so that we know this is my wife. And that is why I say to women all the time, if a man cannot commit to you, why are you committing your body to him to make children with him and to procreate? But he can't commit to you before man and God that this is the woman I love. He can't profess his love outwardly, but then you're supposed to do it in secret with him.
But it brings me to my next point, and this is a burning issue. In church, what we find that we have more females than males. And so we find that a lot of women, they are reaching 40, they are reaching 50, and they are not getting married. Is it something that is wrong, or is it something that the church should not accept for a woman or a man to meet their spouse out in the world, in the secular world, and bring them into church? Because we hear of the well-known scripture, don't be unequally yoked.
Right.
Is this wrong for me to take my wife from out there and bring her in?
Right. You see, the thing is, nothing is wrong with doing that. But many Christian singles, especially women today, are so desperate for the one that they want to even join with non-believers. And then at the end of the day, when they start to face the issues and the struggles and everything, then they are calling on the church for help, when there are guidelines and biblical principles that are already set up. Now, nothing is wrong with getting your husband from outside, because I know people who have met their husband outside of church who is interested in them, but what they did was to let him know, this is my principles, this is my faith, this is what I stand for, this is what I believe. And so if this aligns, then we can start to have a conversation. And so this man who don't even know the Lord, or haven't been saved, or a Christian, right, come into the church, start to come to the church, got saved, got baptized, filled with the Holy Ghost. She didn't run into marriage there because she want to make sure that he has his own encounter and personal experience with the Lord. And this is a known fact, I'm telling you. And so I've seen it where she allow him to know the Lord for himself and see that level of maturity in him before she commit. And they have been married for over 20 odd years now. And so this is a known fact.
But which brings me to my next point, my next question. One of my young people, they asked me specifically to ask you this question.
Yes.
Lincoln, what do you classify as unbeliever? Because when we hear that text, that scripture being quoted, don't be unequally yoked with unbeliever.
Yes.
The person said to me that, but Minister Brown, the Bible says that he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved,
right,
meaning that they will receive the Holy Ghost. So it's possible then for somebody to believe that there is a God but not receive the Holy Ghost.
Right.
And it's possible for somebody to believe that there is a God but they are not baptized. So if I wed myself or join myself to somebody that believe that there is a God but is not yet baptized, that is not yet filled with the Holy Ghost, is something wrong with that? Is it a case that I am unequally yoked?
We're in a society where everybody is a believer, and they're a believer when they want to be, and they're selective believers. Yeah, because in Jamaica we use the term "ants fall fat." And man will go for what they want, and I will become anything for a woman that she wants to be, and that's
become all things,
right? Because whatever she said, I like a man who have way. Well, me will get fat. I like a man because you're persistent, because man have the natural ability to pray, and that is why I always say to women, and the Bible never wrong. He find it a wife, find it a good thing, right? So to speak to your question. There are persons who want, and yes, he may say he's a believer, but how does he demonstrate that? And there are principles. He that believe and is baptized, the same shall be saved. So now, if you said you're a believer, right, and you are baptized, and I'm seeing how you're walking with the Lord, then I can believe you and say, okay, this is somebody that we want to deal with. When you look at in the context of unequally yoked, because when we look at unequally yoked, sometimes we think, especially for us who grew up in church, we think, it's somebody who's from a Seventh-day Adventist church, and I am from a Pentecostal, so we're unequally yoked. Or somebody from this, and that's not the only aspect of unequally yoked. But as Paul demonstrates this using two oxen, and you have a male and female oxen, for example, and one may be bigger than the other. And so he was using that demonstration or that metaphor to really show us that if there are two persons carrying two oxen taking a load, and in the oxen it's around their shoulder, their neck, and around their shoulder where they're able to pull the weight. And so if they're going up a hill and they're both oxen and one is bigger than the other, once you're going up there, the load will shift. And the bigger person will have the load, will tilt the load onto the smaller one.
Interesting.
Right. And that weight is going to kill the smaller one because they cannot manage the weight, because both of them are not on the same level or on the same size. So as you're going with the boat, they're shouldering it equally. Yeah, and so that is why using even this metaphor to show us our demonstration, to show us not to be unequally yoked together. And he used this metaphor to demonstrate what marriage should look like.
Yeah, but the problem still remains, because the sisters, they're saying that there's a shortage of men in the church.
But then I always say this, it's better you wait long than you marry wrong. Yeah.
You hear that, young people?
Yes, it's better you wait long or marry them, because a lot of time we're rushing to trying to get to married because women are looking at their biological clock.
Precisely.
Yeah, and I just want to get married. And married to who? A rascal? You're married to someone who can't even shoulder the burden of the home. You're married to a man who don't want to be the man of the house. And the head of the house don't necessarily mean that your head is bigger than mine, but really means that you're somebody who have a vision for the family, and can move the family into that direction. So it's good to wait, and it's good to spend time. Spend time in getting to know somebody before you run into marriage. If this is the man that the Lord have for you, believe me, if God have him for you, that's your husband.
So
give it
question,
some time.
If we have a sister in church and she's an upcoming star in church, mean dedicated sister, and she falls in love with somebody that's outside of our Christian faith and our Christian community, but they genuinely love each other, you as the pastor, would you tell her break it off?
It depends, and there's a lot of factors here, and there's a lot of things that you have to break down. Because what if this guy is willing to make some changes, or willing to align? If he's unwilling, and she's in a sense where, all right, if I am her pastor and this guy is unwilling to make any change and say, this is what hard and fast, I don't believe that, or I'm not going to do, but he loves her, both of them have to make a decision, but I as her pastor will not advise her to proceed. Because if somebody is going to say, because the reality of the thing is, wedding is a day, marriage is a lifetime. And if he's unwilling, no one tell you off the bat how much other thing will he be unwilling to do, how much other compromise I'll be unwilling to compromise. And so we have to look at the bigger picture here, because this thing continue, because we're in a marriage. And so I wouldn't advise her to do it, because I wouldn't advise my daughter to do it either. So I wouldn't, again, we always leave room. And so I would leave the room in saying it is still your decision. If her parents is still alive, something she can talk through with the parent. But as her pastor and leader, I'll tell her I would not give my blessing on it.
So then what role does the Christian church and what role does the Christian community play in courtship? What role does the family plays in courtship?
Where the Christian community come in, especially your pastors and leaders, we help to keep you accountable, and we want to make sure that at all times you are being protected. Both persons are being protected in terms of what does it take to court, or what should be involved, what shouldn't be involved. So these are guidelines, and we help you to stay accountable. The church, we talk with you and we tell you, because a lot of time people think engagement means sex. And engagement is not your license to have sex. Engagement means I'm promising to marry to you. And so
but they're almost at, don't you would say that they're almost at the finishing line?
Well, you're almost at the finishing line when you're at the altar and walking through the door to go to continue, then you're almost at the finishing line, But until then, until both persons stand and make commitment,
then my heart will go on singing.
Yes, man, you're still in the courtship stage. Even when you're engaged, you're still courting, because engagement, you can get up and decide I no longer feel the same way, and we call it a day. You understand? So it continues. So the church community play that role, where we guide you and we provide counseling, and we provide that help for you to tell you what marriage is about, what is expected in marriage. The Christian community as leaders, we sit with you and we look at both parties.
What would you say to sisters that they would say, Pastor can say anything he want to say, because him have his wife lying down at night and I am in my bed lonely and my biological clock is ticking? And what do you say to young men that are burning and they want to have sex and they want to get married? Is these principles, they're still applicable?
Oh, absolutely. Because these principles don't shift or change, based on how your flesh is kicking up. You understand? It's still in place. For men, Paul says it's better to marry than to burn. For men, I find it a little bit more easier than women. For women, it's a bit more challenging. And the reason being, because the Bible said that he that find a wife find a good thing and obtain favor from the Lord. And so it is for the man who has the natural ability to hunt and to praise, to look for that woman. While a woman, I always believe, must be, on the receiving end. And it don't mean to, because another thing that we don't believe, it doesn't mean to, if a lady, it's okay. If you like somebody, if you like a guy, you can actually express interest in that way without actually telling him that I'm interested. Because trust me, men will know if you're interested. So if you like somebody, because I've seen women who have successful marriage who said, I kind of gave him a little hint. He was a bit slow. I kind of gave him a little hint that I like him. But I allow him to pray. I allow him to do the work. I give him a hint. And so I'm just saying that that's okay, because sometimes women may see a guy and say, is it okay to kind of make him know, without actually telling him I'm interested in you. Don't. Allow him to pray, because you never want it to be like, I didn't like you, you were interested in me.
Yeah.
But give him that ability to still hunt for you. Right? For men now, man, go married, man. Because you have some men who are 40 or this, that, and I don't know what they're doing. The sisters are there, married to them. But for the sisters, I'll say, you wait. Wait, man. Because the Lord just never make a mistake. Wait on your time. Because sometimes we run to marry to somebody because of biological clock and it don't work out. Because you married a person who mistreat you and beat you and you have to end up in divorce.
But I have a controversial one for you. And I was told to specifically ask you this.
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
What if the couple, they're not engaged in kissing or touching or petting or any of that? But from time to time, the boyfriend will ask the girlfriend for a sexy picture, a sexy pic on her phone. Just take a nude picture and a pic and send it to me. Is something wrong with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Yes,
but
ma'am.
they're not touching, they're not kissing.
Yes,
Then
ma'am.
what is wrong? Come on.
What is wrong?
Encouragement, sweet labor, man.
But let us go in the Bible. Let us
come
go in
on,
the Bible.
man.
Don't you know that your body is the temple of the Almighty God?
But she's not defiling her body.
No, because guess what? Within you, the Lord Jesus Christ is not dwelling in your body. Your body is the temple of the Lord. And then if you're going to do that and you take naked picture and you send it to him, what do you think he's going to do with the naked picture? Look and say, oh my Lord, she looks so lovely. God bless you. Praise the Lord. Yeah?
No, but that's assuming that he would do something.
No, but that's not what he's going to do with the picture. Absolutely not. But he's going to look at the picture and his mind is all over the place. You're not helping the brother here. You're not helping him. You understand? Because once he see that, his mind all over the place, my God, I see what I see and I like what I see. And his mind start to go and lust now start to happen. Because now he start to see himself even having sex with you. And he have already committed the fornication in his mind and he haven't touched your body. He already committed because lust now fill his heart. You understand? And lust wicked.
But there are a lot of people that will say they have to know what they're getting.
Yeah, man. But
they're not going to take any pussy in the bag.
And then guess what? Lust actually go more than that, because a lot of time, even for men and women, lust move now into masturbation. And now you're invoking all kind of different stuff now in the body and all kind of spiritual activity.
But the problem is, I understand that, but the problem that I think the young people, and they would have, we did the survey and we asked the question, they're saying that they don't want to get married to somebody that can't function sexually, or they can't get an erection, or when they are married they are grossly disappointed. Right. So they have to taste and buy. In Jamaica we buy the guinea and before we buy it we have to taste it. They have to see what's happening before they get married. And what is wrong with that?
This is when we ask a tough question, because a lot of time in Christendom we believe you can't ask certain questions. Because if I'm going to get married to a woman and vice versa, a woman getting married to a man, there are some questions that you really need to ask, because you need to find out from the man clearly if the thing works. Find out, when you wake up in the morning,
you have that discussion.
Yeah, man, we have to have the talk. This is somebody you're getting married to. So you have to make sure. And a lot of time we miss that even in Christendom, because when you talk to young people, especially young women who are disappointed with what they get, you understand? It's because, and then you ask them, have you ever asked a conversation? And they shy away from it and say, no, I didn't think I could ask that. Which in reality, these are questions you ask. You ask him, do you like this? Do you enjoy it? What is your take on this? What is your take on that? And find out how the man feel about it and see whether or not it's a deal breaker, or find out how the woman feel about it and whether or not it's a deal breaker. These are things you discuss. In a safe space, a restaurant, a public place, an outdoor, a park, or something where you're outdoor, it's a safe space you ask about sex. Because it's not like you're going to talk about it and all of a sudden you start arousing in a public place. You understand what I'm saying? So you want to, these are topics that you bring in and discussion that you ask, because You want to know how the person genuinely feel about some stuff. And women, if you want to find out if the thing work, ask the man if it's something. Listen, I just want to make sure everything at work, everything is okay. Just in case there's no disappointments, you find out what's going on. You know, and men ask our certain little things that happen in our body, anything different, anything strange. Are we in a rush to start, you know, having children? Is there, because there are women who are virgin in church, who have grown up all their life in church, but then they're having imbalance. You know, they're having all kind of different stuff is happening in their body. They may have hormone imbalance going on. They may have a fiber. They may have a this. That said, this may pose a little issue or maybe a bit more difficult to get pregnant because of these challenges. These are discussions that we can have.
But don't you think that all these issues that could possibly be on the horizon waiting for somebody in a relationship who intends to get married, don't you think that these issues had some legitimacy to the fact that I need to test the waters first?
No, you don't need to test the water, because testing the water, what you're doing, you know, you're already introducing unfaithfulness in your stuff. Because if you look at this, if you can't be faithful to God, the sovereign God, who you have made a vow that I'll serve you till death, and I'll keep my body, and I'll keep my mind, and if you break that vow with God, wouldn't you break it with me? Who am I for you not to break that vow? And so that is what men have to think, and women have to think that way. Because if you can break that vow all these years here in church, and because me touch you 2 times and tell you how much I love you, you're willing to break that vow that you made with the Lord, what wouldn't you do with me? So these are sometimes things that we have to look into. You know, that's what you have to look into.
So finally, I want to ask you, what are the boundaries, explicit boundaries, specific boundaries that should be in place to guide Christians while they are in courtship?
And I'm glad you asked. I made some points in terms of boundaries, and I just want to go through them as I've made some jottings. Again, we always said it's a discussion. I always believe in a discussion between 2 parties. Mutual respect and consideration and understanding for one another, especially when it comes to, you know, each other's feeling. And we're talking about boundary and not allowing anyone to force or pressure you to do anything that you don't want to do. If you're not comfortable with it, you're not. And I don't believe both persons, either one should be pressuring in one, especially when I understand you, know who you are, understand what you stand for. We shouldn't be trying to pressure to pass those boundaries. There are different types of boundaries. There are physical boundaries, there are sexual boundaries, emotional and mental boundaries, spiritual, religious boundary. We talked about some of those ones before. Financial and material boundaries, time boundaries, non-negotiable boundaries. And you must set up these.
Could you just stress on the financial part?
And that is one where a lot of persons run from, because even in dating and courtship, and that's one of the boundaries that we must say, look, we're dating. We're not husband and wife. I'm not responsible for you financially.
Really? But isn't that an indication of the type of person you're about to get married to? For example, if when I was dating, I took out my wife. I bought her dinner. What if I didn't do that? She could have very well looked at it to say that I am a person that won't spend on her, that won't spend in the marriage because I'm mean. So shouldn't it be an indication?
No, man, not financial in that sense, because that's chivalry, and that is something that you ought to do. Because any man dating a woman and she have to pay, then listen, lady, run until the back of your heel is touching your head, because it's clearly that you have a miser, right? This is not the man for you, right? Because if he can't buy you dinner and you have to, you know, behave like he can't reach his wallet, him leave him wallet, no, forget it. You have a mean man on your hand, right? And so just don't commit to that run. Financial boundary in terms of, you have sometimes people are coming into a relationship and we're dating and courting, and you're asking to borrow all this crazy kind of amount of money. We are not even at that stage, and you're asking for this or that. I'm not responsible to buy you a car. I'm not responsible to buy you a house or stuff. If I have the money and we want to do it, but we don't want, and why financial boundaries is important, because you don't want what we thought we had together now is starting to be based upon finance.
Yeah.
You know, so there are some boundaries that there are some things I'll do if you ask if I can assist you with getting this. Yeah, no big deal. But then you have to wait, and that is why we said financial boundary is what both of you will talk about. But we're not talking about spending for the wedding or otherwise long-term thing where both of us benefit from. No, that is something totally different.
But is it okay then for us to date by virtue of our status? Meaning that we have a lot of sisters in church today that they are highly educated and they're in the big jobs, and we have, maybe the brother that might not be so qualified on that platform as the sister. Should she hold him to that level? Should she hold courtship to that level where she have to get somebody that is on her level?
Well, that is up to both party, and that's up to she. I don't like status where status is concerned. While you can always look at dating someone who is able to to be accountable and also able to buy you something in terms of we going out or we can do something. But when we look at status, people evolve.
So the sister shouldn't look at potential and just date him right away?
No, man. One of the things that, and a lot of things have to put in perspective and break down. And let us break it down. When we look at these things, I've often said, when a man or a woman have ambition, and great potential, we can do great things. But don't look at somebody now and judge them based on their now. Because
potential can't put food on the table.
No, man. So that's why I'm going to break it down for you. Because what a lot of time that people look at is your now and what you have right now. There are persons who have ambition, there are persons who have drive, and what they lack is opportunity. And when opportunity meets ambition, it's equal to success. Because there are persons who look at you now and said, I have a degree and you don't. I live here and you're not from that place. But your life is like a book. And you're looking at mine now, but if you keep turning the pages, you'll realize I evolve, I've changed, I've matured, things have changed for me. And where I'm at right now is not necessarily the place I'm going to be in 5 years. And so if you truly love somebody, and let love be the first thing, because if you truly love somebody and you can see where both of us can work together, in respect of I may be a doctor and you just have a regular job, but I see that this man, I genuinely love him. And if this man has the opportunity that I have, then we will do great things. It means that your mother and father may have great jobs and you're from a different society. So the opportunity that was given to you may not be the same opportunity given to me. It doesn't mean that I'm worthless. It means that we have different opportunities.
Sure.
But now if I get an opportunity, then I can shine and maybe reach to, where you are or even greater. But you look at it and you look at his ambition and his drive and he said, this is a man I can come together with and we can do great things together. So I don't like to look at classism and look at status quo because that changes over time. How much persons who have maybe had stuff or who was grew up in church, who was the del of the prim at the thing, and then now it's just average. You may not even hear about them anymore. And so we don't look at now because people evolve and people change.
Do you believe in long courtship?
I don't believe in long courtship, and again, there are factors because I always think and leave space, but I don't believe in long courtship. Two persons who are in the same place, I don't believe in these long years drawn out of courtship. So what would be a good time then? And when we said courtship, if you are getting things together, well, you know what? And I don't want to put a short time limit on it either because I always believe that both persons are supposed to take time to know each other. Now, the minute you make it public, that we're seeing each other and this is what's happening and persons are now singing together, then I believe by the time you make it public, you would have already gone through those early stage of courtship. So at least if we know, if you're engaged, sometimes we said if you're engaged, try to do it in 6 months, lock down, married, because now we're seeing you don't want to create any negativity around that marriage and that sacred space that you're both going into. And so if you're dating, there are persons who have dated for a year, there are persons who have dated for 2 years. It depends because I may be in love with her, but then she's in university and I am saving and getting things along while we're dating or we're still getting to know each other, and I want to make sure she's finished and she finished in 2 years, and so it means that for the next 2 years we're dating. So again, there are factors that come in. It may that she's overseas, it may be at the time she's tied up in a filing that we have to just date until things work out on her end before we can do it. So there are many factors, but I just don't believe in this long drawn out thing because the reality is a man know if this is the woman he want very, very early.
Which brings me to my next question. Is it okay for a brother to court or to date more than one woman? Since the Bible says he that findeth a wife, and the word find would suggest a search. Is it okay for...
Well, find mean the end of the search.
Right? but there's some amount of searching that would have taking place. So is it okay for me to, be in a relationship with this one and be in a relationship with that one because I am searching?
Right. So, in dating multiple people. So I was saying, I don't believe in dating multiple persons because, right there and then that this is the person for you. Once you start to date and you have gone out on one date with the person, something about her attracts you. And something about her that you really like. And so if you're dating multiple people, I believe it will cloud your judgment as to who you really want. Because this one is saying something, this one is saying other. And so it starts to become like a player mentality. And you easily can become a Pentecostal playboy or a gospel Bryan, as we'll call it. You know what I mean? So you play with one and you protect one and you like the other one. So I always believe in focusing on one person. If you're dating for a while and of course it don't work out, then that's fine. You move on and you date somebody else. But I just don't believe in the dating multiple persons at the same time. No, I don't believe in that.
So what would you say to our young people that wants to date?
Mm-hmm.
How should they approach the whole dating process, courtship? What would you say to them?
Again, if you want to date and somebody is interested in you, then keep dating very light. I've always said dating is boy meet girl. That's it. Boy meet girl, girl meet boy. Keep it very light. Keep it very simple. Both of us are interested in each other. We express an interest and allow him to ask you out. Ladies, please allow him to ask you out. Always, let him be the driver. Let him do his hunting.
Yeah.
Man has a natural ability to hunt, and to pray. So allow him to do that hunting. Allow the chivalry. It's still, it's not dead. Allow him to open your door. And because the thing is, men are trainable, and women, you can teach man how to treat you.
But women, they're saying that they're independent today.
I mean,
they'll get their own door.
Yes, man, a lot
they'll
of that.
pull out their own chair.
Yes, a lot of that are fluff. It's just to make her feel, give her that boost and that drive to say that I'm not depending on a man. Yeah, and so much time when women become too independent rather, they don't allow man to do what you are supposed to do, and hence we're having our boys now who are believing that I don't have to do this anymore. I tell my wife, if we're walking, don't open a door, and you and I are walking, don't insult me like that. Yeah, because it's an
you
insult.
want to do it.
Yeah, man. We're walking and you're opening my door. You know what kind of man I am. So allow a man to open a door. If you're going out with him for the first time and you go, no, I'm not somebody who will get a door. And you stand there and he pull up on your driveway and you stand and wait for him. And he's not getting your door. You stand there and look. And then he's going to go, what's the problem? You didn't open the door. You haven't invited me in. He opening the door, he's inviting you into the car. He opened the door and then he's gonna go, oh, she's a different one. All right? Because you're training him how to treat you. This is what I expect. This is what I will not tolerate. You train a man how to treat you. And because you are worth far above ruby, far above gold and pearls, you have to let the man realize your worth.
Yeah.
But if you're going to pretend, behave like you're just this easy thing, I'm just happy to get married and him are the best thing walking on my life, he's just going to treat you like he's the prize. Women, you are the prize. Yeah. And women have to understand that they are the prize.
So, to my final question, how should our young people navigate courtship, dating in this 21st century society, where the perception and the principles of dating is totally blurred? Yeah. How should they approach it?
We should always approach dating in a prayerful way. And I think so much time we get so advanced that we have missed out the principles of prayer. And I think that if this is somebody who's interested in you and it's somebody that you are interested in, I think one of the first thing you want to go is a prayer. Pray about it and take some time and observe the person and see his character, his deportment, how he treat himself, how he treat his parents, how he treat his peers around him. Pray about it. Get to know him without even, fully immersing yourself. But you're doing your own little background, your own little work with observation, observing the kind of man he is, his character, again, who he is, and pray about it. Prayerfully Ask the Lord, is this somebody that I'm supposed to be involved with? Is it somebody, show me a sign. Watch out even for red flags, because so much time we become so blurred and caught up in love, or what we call infatuation. And we think it's love and said, oh, when I'm around him, I have butterfly in my stomach and all of that. Eating bad food will do all of that too. You know what I mean? So you have to make sure, that I am truly in love with this man. So take your time, pray about it. Take your time to get to know the person, because there's a lot of perception out there, and a lot of time we're rushing and we're competing because our friends who we grew up with is now married and having children, and something wrong with me or something. No, ain't nothing wrong with you. Take your time. You don't have to rush. Take your time, get to know somebody, allow him to fall in love with you, allow yourself to fall in love with him, and then we think can come together. But it takes time.
Wow, what a discussion. Thank you for joining us. Man, it has been delightful. Dr. Lincoln Bryan, thank you so much.
Anytime, my pleasure.
And thank you for viewing Transcend, the Christian Thinking Talk Show. Join us again for the next episode, where we will be dissecting another interesting topic. Remember to like, share, and to subscribe. Thank you. See you next time. Remember to click subscribe right there below. Please. God bless you.